All right, we are live. We're doing some late night electrochemistry, alchemy, as well as nanomaterials. And on my other computer, I'm currently joined live in the Keshe Knowledge Seeker Workshop Zoom and about to ask Mehran some questions. But before we get to that, just going to show little setup experiment doing here. See, it's not plugged in yet. 2 sea salt jars with 3 electrodes, 2 anodes, and a cathode that will be plugged into that 5-watt output in a second. But also connecting the second jar is a piece of zinc strip between the two, not connected to any electricity, but it will form into a double diode or double electrode, 1 cathode, 1 anode, as soon as the charge goes in. Oh, see, you can see my hand grabbing it on the other screen. Look at that. Look at these angles. All right, you can see plugging it in. Plugged in. All right. A little pressure to the connector to make sure the connection wire is tight. Oops. And now with the additional weight, my apologies, to make sure that the 2 electrodes were not connecting or it would have neutralized the charge, completing the circuit. But now you can see the bubbling that's in connected to the 5-volt charge. So the zinc on this side is going to turn into an anode, and the zinc on this side should establish itself as a cathode as time goes on and should start bubbling as well. Okay, so I'm going to momentarily log out of the phone here in a moment so that I can join back into the Keshe Foundation Zoom, but I will be playing the live stream of the Keshe Foundation, as well as the other camera of the ongoing experiment that you can see between Bert and Ernie right now.
Philosophers Mosey and Lu Ban from China were looking to the wind kites using silk and bamboo, allowing for the later development of communication,
The kite fly, off tower jumping. People in China, India, and Europe first attempted flight this way.
In 1670, Francesco Lanaditari showed us the is still not possible with today's materials. Francesco is recognized as the father of aeronautics, melding science and mathematics into aerial navigation.
Operated at tremendous cost, burning the fuel proved to be wasteful and dangerous technology. The International Space Station, ISS, is a habitable artificial satellite that was assembled in low Earth orbit in 1998 with the use of the Space Shuttle. The ISS can often be seen with the naked eye from Earth.
SpaceX, as a private aerospace producer and space transportation services company, was founded in 2002 by Elon Musk with the goal of reducing space transportation costs and enabling the colonization of Mars. SpaceX reuses the first stage of their primary rocket, Falcon 9, by vertical propulsive landings. Although, up to present time, it still uses the rocket fuel burning technology. Mehran Keshe has always said, the time for burning fuels is over. But did we need to start with that technology in the first place?
Ancient cultures have suggested the use of an alternative means of transportation. With reference to possible plasma technology,
you can go to New York from Brussels within 2 to 5 minutes. And most of this 5 minutes is actually landing and getting up.
Mehran Tavakkoli Keshe was born in Iran in 1958. As the son of an X-ray engineer, he was introduced to the world of radiation and nuclear science at a very young age. In 1981, he graduated from Queen Mary, the University of London, as a nuclear engineer specialized in reactor technology system control. At that time, he developed a number of theoretical ideas related to more simple nuclear concepts and their applications. In 2002, he decided to finish the full design of his ideas about nuclear technology. This included the creation and control of gravity and energy by the use of nuclear materials in a clean and safe hydrogen reactor. Mehran Keshe introduced the concept of double magnetic fields to explain the magnetic and gravitational field of Earth.
Unknown by the existing scientific community, he wrote a number of scientific papers in 2004 and sent them for peer review, such as the creation of black holes. When one of the persons performing the peer review used his information in public, he decided to draw back his papers and to concentrate further on building prototypes.
Since the beginning of 2006, several prototypes of dynamic reactors have been built, some specifically designed to create hovering effects, similar to effects seen with magnetic levitation. Basic hovering effects have been achieved. 2007 brought the first flight test with radioactive material, in which the patents describe the process of the field interactions.
The main patent, Gravitational and Energy System, described the initial fundamental aspects of the plasma and uses. This was followed by the supplemental patent, Microplasma Reactors, where further uses and advancements were described. Mr. Keshe found himself in Iran in 2008 and was provided all the resources needed to create the first lift of a plasma reactor managed by the Iranian government. These special rotating gas reactors were used to control the plasma. To bring a deeper understanding, Mr. Keshe released the first book in 2009, The Universal Order of Creation of Matters, which contained many new concepts released to the public. This included the PMTIC plasma magnetic fields, initial fundamental plasma and plasma dilution technology used for space reactors. The plasma technology was further developed and it manifested in weight fluctuation in a controlled environment. 2010 introduced a new state of matter called GANS, an acronym for gas in nanosolid state. The GANS produces fields to be used in the operation of the spaceship. Advanced flight tests were performed in Iran with the guidance of Mr. Keshe and the newly designed systems.
Mr. Keshe tells us you can't bring all the doctors with you in space. Medical research advanced in 2010 and is still being explored daily all around the world. The Keshe Foundation has provided knowledge for dealing with many medical conditions in space.
A great example of plasma technology used for peaceful process is the capturing of the USA drone over Iran in December 2011. This drone was touted as one of the most advanced drones of its day and was caught by Iran using plasma to disrupt the communications. Plasma absorbs fields and the drone uses radio fields for piloting, a natural aspect of the plasma, a barrier of fields.
Book 2, The Structure of the Light, was released in 2011. This book brought forward the understanding of the structure of light as a cylindrical plasma where the light is in possession of all magnetic field strengths. Book 3, The Origin of the Universe, was published later in 2011. Mr. Keshe explained the further operation and interaction of different strengths of the same fields, which then leads to the creation of the universe. These 3 books bring forward a much deeper understanding of the plasma science that is applied worldwide by knowledge seekers and scientists in spaceship research and development.
There were 2 conferences to release the space technology to governments in 2012. The first international presentation in April, Keshe Foundation invited representatives of every country to the first presentation of the plasma technology. The second international presentation in September, Keshe Foundation invited the nations of the world through their ambassadors and their leaders to attend a gathering at the Keshe Foundation Center in Nenov, Belgium.
Space travel requires peace. The implementation of the plasma technology brings greater responsibility. In 2013, Mr. Keshe brought forward the World Peace Treaty. Signing of the peace treaty is a confirmation from yourself to your soul to act correctly in a peaceful manner.
In 2014, knowledge seekers came together from around the world to learn from Mr. Keshe, and many different experiments with reactors were performed, including improving the previously developed reactors to fit with the new knowledge, introduction of nano-coated reactors, multi-core GANS systems. The Spaceship Institute lab experiments were streamed live on the internet for all to see. SSI lab tests with reactors showed strong magnetic field pulses up to 129 Tesla and showed significant weight fluctuations. In December, an experiment was performed using reactors built by knowledge seekers from around the world Italy, Germany, and Canada were involved in field communication tests. The tests showed that fields can interact with each other no matter the distance or time, resulting in instant communication.
In 2015, developments for space continued with different aspects of the plasma technology, such as in health, energy, and decontamination. In October of 2015, Mr. Keshe taught a popular week-long course called the Blueprint Teachings about how to build the MAGRAV power units. People from all over the world participated with building their own MAGRAV units and teaching others. With the demand of the Keshe Foundation products from all over the world, a new research center and manufacturing opened in Arizona, USA. Many developments of the technology happened in different parts of the world, and Keshe Foundation USA is no exception. John and the team started performing experiments using different sensing tools. These tools allowed the team to visualize the MAGRAV fields and to show others their interactions. With reactor formations showing positive results, partaking in the knowledge together is easier and more joyful than ever. The fun has just begun, says MT Keshe.
Mr. Keshe publicly teaches the space technology through the weekly Knowledge Seekers workshops. Plasma enthusiasts from around the world participate in gathering the knowledge and putting the puzzle together in the space race. All people, irrespective of race, nation, or religion, are invited to participate in the exchange of knowledge, thus assisting humanity to live within the ethos of the universe. It is recognized that international cooperation and peace is a prerequisite for mankind to journey into deep space. Individuals and nations are invited to come together in the spirit of collaboration and unity to enable peaceful application and the use of plasma technology for space travel, food, agriculture, energy, transportation, health, and more. We are excited to release the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Blueprint to humanity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fire.
Everything you saw in that video. Doing in the thing.
With everybody else. But if you order it within the next 2 or 3, 4 weeks, as the orders gets going through, it'll go through. All of the which you ordered the balls should receive it within the next 2 or 3 weeks, because all have been done now. All have been completed. It's just, I think it's lasering the boxes and the rest of it. Yeah. The orders are complete on this cycle. If you order more, then you have to wait for the next cycle, which could be next 2 or 3 months. Don't forget, in the near future, we use this as currency, as part of the Keshe Foundation structure. I'll explain to you when it comes to it. Any other question? I think some of you who bought the mystery boxes, you'll receive some of these packages too. Let us know if you did.
I have a couple of questions in the Q&A, but before that, do we have a hand up with Bernard? If you would.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good day, Mr. Keshe. Bernie here, Bernard Conkin. I last talked to you about a year ago, and I meant to follow up to schedule the interview with you. But just to give a brief history of my history with yourself, I absolutely love your opening video now documenting all that you've done, and that I've been following the Keshe Foundation, participating on and off in the Zooms since the very beginning. I remember when you were targeted it was like the Netherlands or Denmark or whatever. I remember your press release, was it with base systems that you originally worked with in England?
Carry on.
And then I also remember the video where you presented to the cardinals in Rome. I remember specifically with the Iranian drone, and the key part that will stick with me forever is back in, it was 2011, I believe, that time, or right after, but when it was, the servers for like YouTube, for different online chat rooms, they weren't blocked like they are now, the digital walls that are up, and that all the Iranian people were posting and giving you credit for it. And it was quite apparent, right, that it was 100% your technology that did it. And ever since then, specifically my first question, I guess, is, it was the plasma technology you said, and that Russia and China had also signed on, and that the plasma technology that gave the breakthrough for the hypersonic abilities that these countries, Iran, Russia, and China, now have, that the West has been unable to replicate?
The Keshe Foundation technology is very well shown in a different way in the past 2 weeks. There's no question why the systems are not used or why, what happened. I asked that question from the officials and I got a very direct answer, which was very interesting for me. China used part of this technology last week by switching on and switching off aircraft disappearing from the radar and then appearing over Tehran. Literally, you cannot detect it. It wasn't detectable, and this brought a shock to the systems. The aspects of what we see hypersonic is hidden knowledge, which in the future will be released. It works partially because of the solid fuel, and the solid fuel at the highest speed creates plasma. If you can add to the plasma certain fields, you can change it. These are technical technologies which are getting developed by Chinese and by the Russians and Iranians partially. We are waiting to see two questions we asked. Why the systems were not used? I was answered the first part, is militarism, what they call confidentiality. Why not? And we have to keep it that way because we got
of course, national
before. No, it's just before we even start the session today. I was explaining to Rick. There's a lot. Today we have officials from Israeli military, Iran military, Chinese and Russians and Americans and a few others online. We've been told, we know, we're tracking them, they are there. They're expecting some announcements from Keshe Foundation in this respect, because we are privileged to have information which is not in public, but at the same time, our intelligence structure gives us a lot of insight. We asked a simple question and was answered immediately in one sentence by the officials in the first 2 days of the beginning of this conflict. We understand why Iranians are holding a lot of things back. They're going to test new technologies. They are testing what they want to call it as it is. And in replica, when answering it back, we have made a very large, impressive offer to the Iranians, which we are waiting for an answer within the next few days, which will change the course with plasma technology and space technology. And we have to see what the officials decide. But you have to understand, there is a huge piece of information which are missing in the past 12 days conflict, which has to be understood. And the reason for it, why the Iranian took this course of action with rockets and missiles and the rest of it, which we understand. It wasn't a show take or tag, but to show what you can do, we can do 100 times worse. And the conflict has created a lot of mess. And it's religious superiority than actually technical superiority thereafter. You got to understand the Islamic world in the Middle East, and you have to understand West point of view. Iran, the first 7 days, stood on its own with 20 nations backing Israel from land, sea, weapons, everything possible. The total damage to the Israeli side is very heavy. Israel has lost over 7,500 top engineers, scientists, nuclear physicists, and the rest. The estimate is over 11,000. 7,500 top Israeli scientists have disappeared. They speak about all Iranian nuclear physicists and the rest. Israel lost half of his nuclear scientists.
Right, they're very.
No, we're talking a statistic. We're not going anywhere. I don't want to get involved.
Yeah, just they don't release casualties, right? So it's the.
Let me explain.
Iran,
let me explain. 65 to 75% of the advanced technology of Israel is wiped out. will not exist, does not exist. Casualties is in 5 digits and 6 digits in financial side. Physical casualties, 100,000 plus. Total life loss is excess of 75,000 in Israel alone. You have to understand these are not figures made up. Israel accused Iran or Palestinians building silos under the hospitals. Israel, you heard that Iran attacked Israeli military hospitals. It happened because Israel kept half of research and military nuclear weapons under the military hospitals. Iran did not hit the hospitals to kill patients and military soldiers. Half of the soldiers in these hospitals are military scientists, nuclear physicists, covered under the military cover. So when you hear Iran hitting military hospitals, is actually nuclear silos kept underneath these hospitals. Iran did not touch a civilian hospital. When you see Mr. Netanyahu going, this is the hospital. Yes, it's your nuclear base. What they accused Palestinians to be holding military bases on the hospitals is exactly what they did themselves. They accused, we have a beautiful saying in Farsi, said, the guy who is misguided thinks everybody else is misguided. Actually, most of military nuclear warheads, central operations of Israel on the nuclear side is under the military hospitals. That's why they were attacked. So you can imagine 2,000 or 3,000 people in these hospitals. They're all military. So estimated 3,000 to 5,000 wiped out in the hospitals. We don't need to go very far. And it's beautiful when Mr. Netanyahu stood, says, next to this is a hospital, children's hospital. We didn't touch children's hospital. Target was military nuclear silos, which was hit. Headquarters of the operation of nuclear. 7,500 top scientists of Russia and Israel can be confirmed by the other sources. You have to understand the whole of Port of Haifa is gone. The whole of military Port of Haifa is gone. The refinery is gone. Microsoft headquarters is gone. The biological lab is gone. The Wasman headquarters is gone. And these were all because they were so sure that the Iron Curtain, or whatever call it, dome will keep it. They were all scientists working. 1,500 scientists were in the Biological Warfare Center. Nothing is left of it. That's 1,500. Military base is gone. 3,000 to 5,000. Port of Haifa refinery is gone. 2,500 workers. The biggest loss has come out of the hand where they put military bases in the houses, in the basements of houses. When you see these big devastations, and then you understand the public knowledge in Israel that every corner, every near all these buildings, there is a bomb shelter. You see the space which is destroyed. You look at the previous pictures, the apartment blocks on top. These people are all in the basements. They went to the shelters and the building collapsed on them. Now you see where the figures comes. 50,000 are missing at the moment. This is why Israel doesn't want you to see. All the advanced technology, drones, microchip, research centers, all has wiped out. All in a working condition, according to the Israeli. What we saw with Mr. Netanyahu going and standing in front of the Weizmann Center, there were scientists working in there. What happened? They never thought they're going to be touched. The biological center, we don't know how to host 40% of its scientists. They killed 4 Iranian nuclear physicists. They lost 40% of their knowledge base. Economical damage to Israel is beyond imagination. They closed the borders because they don't have people to look after people anymore. This war should not have happened. They went for it. They got punished by it. It'll take 20 years for Israel to economically recover. And they need all the resources from Europe and America to pay them, to give them, to bring. The biggest loss is the scientific world. Losing 7.5 to 8,000 scientists, nuclear physicists, years of development. And there are no more Jews left who's following into this position. So you have 40 years gap. The Iranians did not hit the hospital. They hit the military base. Nuclear material scientists in it.
I saw that. I saw the videos that leaked of it centering that hospital below the other hospital.
When I was in South Korea a few years ago, I was given access how these things work because they wanted me to understand how to use the technology. And then secondly, I had an accident. I was taken to a hospital hundreds of meters below the ground, tens and tens of meters below surface, because they were afraid that North Koreans will get me through the operation. I've been through the structure, and the reality is, if Iran would have kept the war 3 more days, Israel would have had nothing left to live on.
Right, like they destroyed the power plants, the oil refinery. They hit everything that Israel originally hit in Iran first, right? It was.
Yes, but Iran is big, and but don't forget, Iran losses runs in tens of thousands too, because Americans use B-52 to carpet bomb like Vietnam, Iran. This is not in the news, but it's the fact. Israelis didn't hit every missile. B-52s took over from we know where, and the carpet bombed the central structure of Iran. The losses in Iran are huge, the same. Americans use B-52s, thousands of tons, military headquarters, and the rest. We have not lost any nuclear material. Iranians were well informed beforehand. All the centrifuges were emptied, all the materials taken out. And that's why you don't see so much nuclear radiation damage. They cannot detect because it's not there.
Well, thank God that there was at least that sort of backroom diplomacy of communication of warning so that they could shut it down so that there wasn't nuclear radiation.
No, we knew,
right?
we knew long before they do, because you know that they leave it there. And as you know, Iran will not participate anymore in IAEA structures, because we gave this structure to the IAEA and they gave it to the Israelis. So from now on is a blank point. As you know, the leaked documentation out of Israel, which has been obtained by Iran, shows the head of IAEA's position with Mossad. Documented. And secondly, what we could not understand, why in the talks of the United Nations in the past couple of days, Israel appears, who says it's got nothing to do with the international nuclear monitoring, on the table, in the room. What the heck has got to do with you? This is the biggest. Iran has to follow nuclear observation, but Israelis do what they like. But the reason they are there this time is because their nuclear bunkers, most of their nuclear scientists have died. They killed 4, but they lost hundreds. And they never thought, because they were so confident that nothing will happen, nobody can cross the domes, the 3 layers, plus all the American, Europeans, missiles and everything, in Jordan helping them. Israel has lost half of his nuclear scientists. Decision makers, bunkers that they have nuclear warheads in them. Iran hit the controlling officers, and the Israelis were shocked how they knew it. Iran accessing the knowledge, downloading the knowledge of the information, the Israelis knew their target. Every place, maybe one or two economical operators, hit all their operation. If you look at some of the videos, missiles, anti-aircraft, what you call missile units, are launched in the, which is part of the work of the military base, and Iran hit those. You don't put people on top. What they accuse the Palestinians doing is exactly what they were doing themselves. We are done, they done this to us, but we don't listen to it anymore. Because then he wants to make the others damage us. You started it, you get the whack of it. And the worst thing, why the Israelis is to back up and end to it, because if they go through the next phase, there'll be nothing left of the state of Israel with the bombings which is going to happen. This time Russians stand something very clear. Palestinians shot a lot of Americans, drones and other things during the Palestine. All occasion of knows understand how to overcome every latest American missile technology. To 10%, sorry, 5 to 10% of the armaments used, as if you go back to some teaching, I gave the hint what it means, never explode. And the Palestinians, actually, all the spare materials fell on Palestine to the Chinese. And they have replicated it. And now F-35 is in the hand of Chinese. Within the next few months, they'll find a way around it. F-35 has lost its position. B-2s very soon will be cracked. Americans are trying to show their face, we've done everything. They're negotiating out of weakness, not out of strength. Killed, died, but apartments just collapsing on top of their own shelters. When you see these big buildings, you see these crates, were they empty? If they're empty, they're wiped out. And if they're not empty, people are in the basement. They didn't run 10 kilometers to go in the basement shelters. Thousands of tons sitting on top. They are not disclosing it. You look at these pictures. You look at the research centers when they hit. By structure of the around the research centers in Israel, they can walk to, they cannot be tracked. When you see the Weizmann Center demolished, they don't show you the other side. All the residential is gone, all the scientists have been killed with their families. The Israelis took ignorant, illiterate people from Afghanistan, They gave them a drone and they gave them a telephone number. Backing the phone number, then the Iranian nuclear physicists, when the phone rang, the rocket followed, the drone followed. That's how they killed. That's why you don't get no Iranian telephones. Everything was cut off, that they cannot connect to no one. And you see 700, 800, 900 people captured who've been doing this, majority people from Afghanistan. Then you understand the other parts of the whole situation. Israel is running out of fuel. They don't have fuel because all their refineries, electric power stations is done. We cannot drive freely in Israel because there is no fuel. No food, no water, because the power stations hit, the pumps don't work. And as we suggested, the only place left for the Palestinians in Gaza to go is to empty houses where hundreds of thousands of Israelis left. They don't need to go back to their own homeland. The IDF has no power to stop the Palestinians to move into Tel Aviv because tens of thousands go to Romania, hundreds of thousands are in Israel. You could buy $50 ticket to go from Haifa to Cyprus for a day trip. Now it's $15,000 to get a seat, to find a place. Ashdod is wiped out. Israel lives on the handout of the American naval forces and the cruisers to take them out. That's why they close the borders. Nobody can leave because they don't have enough people. They lost too much. Scientifically, Israel is out of question. All this research center doing the advanced microbiological warfare, every single scientist in these centers have gone. Unless they've been on holiday or they escaped, there's nobody survived. 1,500 they reported they were in the building. That's Israeli statistics, not us. Was it a need for this? We have to wait. So you mark, calculate, look at the death certificates in 6 months' time from Israel. You should see around about 100,000 deaths in these past 2 weeks. Injuries plus direct hits. When you see these huge buildings, by Israeli law, each room, each apartment has a safe room. And look what building was before, what was there. People went into these safe rooms in their own apartments. The apartment doesn't exist. Now you understand. Nothing is, we guess. These are statistics, and all of it is backed by the Israelis' data. So was this war necessary? But in a way, if you look at it, Pakistanis did not let Iran down. The last thing Trump did before attacking Iran, asked for the look at the news for Pakistanis military to appear in the White House, getting assurance that they give them side of the Iran missiles. Pakistan is refused. And this is where most of the missiles are launched on the far end towards the Pakistan border, that they cannot interfere. But Iran lost a lot, was in need for it. All our nuclear bunkers, all our nuclear materials are in hand. The B-2s dropped the bomb meters away where it is. And it was the biggest failure in American deployment of B-2 and B-2s. Was there a need? The only beneficiary is Rothschild and America. Just watch the death certificate documents in 6-12 months. A lot are wiped out because they cannot even say. A lot of the registration, a lot of central intelligence has gone. They lost their intelligence. When other headquarters, military headquarters, they're all manned because they're never full of people when you got hit. If Israel decides to go for a second time round, back to the Moses time. Seven and a half plus engineers. Decision makers. All gone. We have to do it. And just go on the statistics from the Israeli government, nobody else, nowhere else. When you hit the refinery, these refineries, you cannot leave them unmanned. Military port of Haifa, the port is unusable. Empty from soldiers, where did they run out? My condolences to the nation of Israel, and the same with Iran. But the book is clean, and you will see, if ever research centers ever come up. The best thing in this war happened, the microbiological warfare, which was there, has gone. This is a help to humanity. We go to the next step. All the biological research, all the chemical warfare was operated through this center in the different covers with different nations. Now it's gone. And that's according to the Israeli government. Full operational when it was hit. There are no ghosts in these buildings. That's a tough sign. They were trying to develop the latest that they can do something with the world and with Iran. Unfortunately, they're not there. Unfortunately, humanity has been lucky. All the drone facilities have gone. They were not empty places. They're full of engineers and top people, scientists. All gone. Losses is more than man can imagine. For both sides. It took 11 nations to bomb it, and a little bit of help from China and then. But one good thing will happen with Iran. Now we don't need to develop nuclear material. Russia is giving it to us free. We became nuclear without wanting. The rhetoric in the news outside in the West, they're bleeding beyond.
I'd just like to finish with saying I pray that the peace stays and the ceasefire can develop into a longer lasting permanent peace. And
We hope the same, but you have to understand this is a religious war. Nothing to do with humanity. These people have no emotion. Vatican decided to launch this. Israel is just a tool, and the rest of it. But it is, as I said, it's the last phase of mankind jumping on each other. You got to understand there's a lot of things happening economically. The Chinese new system coming in, which is now operated with a lot of banks, which people outside don't know. This system brought in by the Chinese now fully operational. Doesn't need a SWIFT, doesn't need changes exchange in the market direct. And then you have to understand the economical situation in Russia has changed opposite to what they were expecting with Ukraine war. And this will show itself very soon. Rare earth material to America is paralyzing a lot of other things. They brought this nonsense of getting rid of the people who are there working. It's going to bring huge pressures on Americans, and they have to do something to change the internal pressures. And this will end up to a bigger war, because to divert attention. It's horrible what's happening. We have to stop it. We're trying to every possible way with the Iranian government to find a solution. We have made huge offers to the Iranian government in the past 48 hours. But you have to understand, they've set their mind, they found the weakness of the animal, how it's bleeding, and they're not letting it go. And this is the wrong approach by the Iranians, but that's the decision of the Iranian national government. They were hoping they get the people on the street, they get the revolution, they brought a solidarity to the nation, and at the same time now a lot of Arab nations are going behind them. This can bring arrogance, which is not good. And there is a time to stop. The time is now, but we'll see. If Israel goes any further, they came in as refugees, they leave as refugees. We tried to approach both governments, trying to bring census. Apparently, the Americans don't want to accept it because there's a reason for Trump to stay in office. And the Iranians have found their weakness. They're going to solve the problem for themselves. Total loss in this war is around about 150,000 from both sides, and nearly 250,000 injuries. Watch the hospital, watch the statistics, watch the government leaders. You don't see any more officials which are not there anymore. Scientists don't appear in conferences. These are all dead. Just watch which conference is coming up: biochemical conferences, nuclear conferences, atomic conferences, military conferences, all get cancelled by one by the Israelis will not be there, because scientists have won. People who are instigators. Look at the structure in coming months in the scientific world and see what's missing, where it's missing, why there's no more research papers coming out of Israel. They reckon 80% of the research papers in Israel will not appear for the next 5 to 10 years. Because the scientists are not there anymore. And a lot of foreign scientists have already fled the nation. It should not happen. But this one man has brought one nation after the nation to war. But this time he chewed more than he could swallow. We lost one of the biggest supporters of Keshe Foundation the first day of the attack. Knowledge seekers one they will know. The man who stood by our technology and science in Iran. Should not be done. He was a great scientist. He was a huge understanding of the new technology changes. Bring the new technology, and we are on the verge of doing it. If you understood, I keep on telling you, don't sell your market shares. Hold on to it. Any other question?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Let's see here. We have a request in the chat from Elizabeth. I'll just say, and you can say whether we should do it or not. She says, can we take 2 minutes to elevate the souls of all those who have died as part of these clashes in the Middle East and between Russia and Ukraine. That means 2 minutes of silence.
Why don't you give me a soul that bring it to a dimension of physicality of silence? Use these 2 minutes to elevate the soul of the world leaders. Nothing else. And you don't need the physical silence. Make the time within you, and you can reach it much more than the science. Any other?
Okay, thank you. It's in German from Buse, Michael, or Michael Buse. It translates to, you mentioned some time ago that there are humans or human-like beings living inside the earth, possibly in a non-material state. Could you please tell us more about this? In what field state do these beings exist? Do they have connection or communication with the surface or with you?
Can you repeat? Can you repeat?
Okay. You mentioned some time ago that there are humans or human-like beings living inside the earth, possibly in a non-material state. Could you please tell us more about this? In what field state, connection or communication with the surface or with you? What role do they play in relation to current developments? And what do these inner earth humans think or feel about the driver on earth, the forces that control events here?
There are a number of things you have to understand. Life within does not mean physical intelligence. Life within does not mean physical body of the physical man. It could be in shape of any structure. Have emotion, understand, has intelligence. This is the same across the universe, it's not exclusive of the earth. As we have the birds flying in the sky, we have the fish in the sea, we have man on the surface of the planet, we have life within the structure of this planet. And depending and according to what the structure is made, how it's made, depends the physical, what we call manifestation. The whole structure of this planet is not the way we've been led to believe. We have moles live on the surface. We have all sorts of animals which make their tunnels and they live. They have intelligence, they have life. So going by the same principle, within the structure of the earth, even within the core of the structure of the earth, there is a life. Is it aware of the thing happening above? Does it matter to it? Because that's the only world it knows. In the early reactors I used to build, which I was sitting on top, I was aware of every position of it. And if you go back to the teachings I've done many years ago, I always say when you start a reactor, pray for it, because it has a soul. You create lives in these systems. It's because to understand this, we understand the totality of creation. The problem is not so much is there a life in the inner earth, the life above us, which we always ignored, and so many times we see it by satellites. When the man actually gets out of the solar system, I've said that many times, in between solar system, in between galaxies, in between the universes, due to interaction with the fields, there is a life. It has intelligence, it decides for itself, accumulates, divides, does everything else which every other life does. Life on the earth is 100 years. life in the span of the universe as a field is millions of years. If you are 20 million years, still a kid. So, if you understand the full structure of the fields of life, it's not hard to understand. And in time, the different cultures come in touch with each other. It has happened many times. The way the mole comes out of the hole and he sees life, humanity, and animals, the same thing over time has happened with those who live within this planet. You have volcanic eruptions, you have holes in this universe, in this galaxy, in this planet. It's not that they're hidden, has been, there is. Decision is we cannot live, we cannot put animals which cannot breathe air onto the surface of this planet. So there is life. Man has to respect that life, not just what's within the earth. Is there a life? Yes. Intelligent? Yes. Because if they're not intelligent, they could not replicate. They couldn't find a way to survive. So intelligence brings them survival. And you can survive, you are intelligent because you find a way. Man has to learn. We'll encounter very soon, as we open the space into excursion, we'll face, we'll interact with the other lives, which are life, intellectually more advanced sometimes behind us, are living things. Don't put your mind narrow-minded that this is it. No. Accept the truth, accept that, you know, if life couldn't be created on this planet, which comes from interaction of fields, so universe is full of fields and it comes interacting with each other. We are above, on the surface, the fish are in the water, birds in the sky, what are called jelly life on the upper atmosphere, and for sure from what our geologists tell us from drilling out the holes, we find new lives. There are other lives. We just have not drilled into the right hole to find them. Life exists from the center of the planet to the heart of the Creator and all the space in between. Any other question?
Bernie had put in the chat here, he says, may I please ask one more question about scheduling a follow-up interview, please? I hope to discuss several material science aspects I've discovered working with the MagRav coils, electrochemistry, GANs technology. Open to interviews or?
Send a message to info@keshe.foundation. It'll be organized that way.
Okay. And he also says, I would also like to give my full testimony of my 14 years of following Mr. Keshe, as well as all I have experienced while participating in 12 years of Keshe. I would suggest that he could do that in the public meeting for testimonials, which is always the second Monday of the month, coming up in July. And that's an excellent place. You could put a presentation together if you like, and let that workshop know about all your things you like to talk about. So what would you suggest, Mr. Keshe?
I think that's a good idea, because that's the way people share. All these testimonials one day will be opened up in a different way and people learn step by step. You're researchers, that's why you release it. People publish scientific paper. Knowledge seekers create testimonials without payment to interfere with the outcome. That's the way we look at the testimonials. Testimonials are research papers. You do the research, you do the validation, or put the knowledge out, who reads it, what they want to do with it.
Your peer review is your peers are peering at you while you give your presentation.
The worst thing to do,
response instantly.
Yeah, the worst thing to do if you want to keep a technology hidden or a knowledge hidden is to go to the scientific papers publication, which now we understand 90% of the publications are all fraud, built to defraud, divert attention or knowledge, and partially to cover the lies of those who publish papers are all lies. More and more is coming up. It's just put out to please the people who paid the research technology, which means I give it to you, do whatever you like with it, but it's the cheat which the Europeans brought in with the patent business to get access to the other people's knowledge. And it's not washing anymore. Not washing out anymore. There's no more people. Any time you want to lose your technology, you patent it, which means I give my knowledge to everybody else, but I want money for it or whatever. We changed this in the new structure of the contracts with Market Corporation. You will see, because it's a public knowledge, it's not something that we hide. It has to be released once the things are completed. With all the governments, with all the institutions, with all the companies we negotiate, we got away with license, with what you call patenting and intellectual rights. We give the technology. If the technology is correct, we take 10% on top of the bill of the sale. If the technology is wrong, you cannot do anything with it. Why should you pay? This means that you will see all the organizations, all the companies which collaborate with Markray. If you develop, let's say, a plate, and it costs you 100,000 to develop it, make it, and you sell it for $10, that's approximately 10% on top of that. You pay VAT. And it's the job of the factories to pay, not the public, because you already paid. This way, research, patterning, and publication. Because if a technology is used and sold, it pays as a point of sale. If it's useless, doesn't have any income. Market Corporation carries this international 10%. Doesn't matter you use the technology in Africa, you use it in Asia. You pay $10 for a good in Africa, you pay 10% on it. You work in America, you pay $1,000 for it, you still pay 10% for it. The new license fee we put out is attracting a lot of attention from the government. This way, does not matter who takes technology, what it does with it. Sources back to the point where it came from. 10% bill is a scientific payment. It's the same as you get royalties in the music. If somebody plays your tune, you pay for it, doesn't matter what they do. Now we set the structure. We change the patent business. Doesn't matter what patent. Technology refers back to what it is, uses a nanotechnology which is confirmed to be Keshe Foundation. You guy who buys a microphone or a telephone which uses that, 10% of that bill goes to the foundation. International intellectual tax. Does not matter, you sell the goods you manufacture in China, you sell in America, and America pays 10% on the bill. And this is written in all our contracts. Goes by. Technology has to be open, let people use it, let them develop it. You don't need to patent it, you don't need to hide it. Connects to a knowledge, recipient of the knowledge takes 10%. It has a value. It's the same as a farmer. Why should we pay a farmer $20 per kilo for a meat which it cost him all his life and plus all his expenses, $18. He has to live. He has to live correct. This is why you go to a shop to buy the cheapest, but who suffers? The farmer. Then why don't we pay equal, correct amount that the farmer survives, can expand, brings a new life, doesn't need to find shortcuts to create health damage. Now we've done that. You will see with all the Keshe Foundation going through market contracts, 10% sales tax. Does not matter where our products is sold. In China, manufactured, sold in America, produced in America, sold in Vietnam. 10% follows, and the government see the right to it. And this is the only way we can go to the next step. This is what we need, this money which we set to a stagnation, to get these things sorted very rapidly in next few. Because we already passed our deadline, we are still stuck. But all our contracts go that way. Government contracts, you use our technology for defense, you're welcome. You bring it into commercialization. Part of it, 10% or whatever that technology is. Is the job of the scientists to track who use the technology for the 10%, and the governments to allocate it the way they do with the musicians. What's the difference between a scientist and a musician? How come people get royalty because of the music played by somebody on the radio or used in the movie? Now that lobby sits on the scientific side, and we brought it in and we are forcing it. And this is the way it should be, should have been, not patent rights. The way we did, we left the technology in your hand. We let you to deliver it and develop it, but you will find out soon, very soon, next few years, anything you developed which uses in source Keshe Foundation technology, you still get your money. Customer pays 10% tax, intellectual tax. There's no need for the guy who made the wipers of the cars, if you know the history of it. He patented it, car companies use it, 20 years lapse. He spent all his life and energy trying to get paid for the patent that every car you drive uses his wiper. Now it's there, you pay. Intellectual right becomes human right. And that's why I started that. I ask you to develop as much as you can, because now that we go into operational track, you use the technology, you're selling your soap, which uses GANs, you still get your money. Customer pays tax, 10% intellectual right as a license. Not the reality. There's no reality into it. And you find out science world will evolve a lot with this income. We have to do it this way. We had to change the pattern, but now that we've gone into operational, transferring the knowledge from Keshe Foundation into Markray. Markray is a stock market company and has different clouds, different structure and different government structure behind it, and can enforce it. There's no more always Keshe Foundation. You deal with Markray technology, sits there, you pay 10% because it goes by license to the licensee. Doesn't matter who plays what music in which channel. Doesn't matter what you use, technology in what part. You will see the changes, and now we have written into all our agreements, and it's acceptable because it doesn't affect the profit of the company. Does it affect if you pay 30% VAT on your goods? Goes in the hand of the pocket of the government to do what they do. 10% what you call license fee on sales goods, sale of the good, solves the problem for the scientific world, solves the problem for the scientists, makes a huge amount of money available to research and development into space technology and the rest. And you don't have to be worried who copies it. The more you copy, the more income you have. You just need to confirm where it comes. It becomes a job of governments to collect in the future. The way they collect money for musicians and they give them, now goes the other way. This intellectual right tax on sale of the goods will be worldwide applied, because every product, even the apple you eat, has genetic or scientific evolution on it. Allows a balanced world to create new dimensions in the financial support of science. And it's international, it's broad right across borders, does not know no nationalities. You will see it. Intellectual tax on sale of goods does not affect, you don't buy it, you don't pay it. You use the technology in a factory which brings you sales by advantage of it, you don't do anything, it doesn't touch your margin. It gives the intellectual person who use, you might have used 10 different technologies in your work, freely available taught, the scientists get paid for it. And this is the way it's going to be. All our contracts through market carry this 10% intellectual right license. At the beginning, the first 2 or 3 negotiations was very hard, because people say, oh, it doesn't touch, does the VAT touches your profit? No. You produce microchips, uses 10, 20 different scientists, know-how in life for companies. This is the job of the government to allocate. This is what I do. I use this knowledge, this knowledge, this knowledge. It doesn't harm me. It's like a list of ingredients. And it's the job of the government by ratio to pay research centers. I use this, 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 this. And this brings balance, gets rid of all the patent business, gets rid of all these intellectual rights. Your intellectual rights is when it's used. And if the government uses it for military, space, or other developments, again the same. They have to allocate percentage of the research or development goes to the scientists. Patent business is finished, and the governments understand this. And this is why I always ask you to do as much, teach as much, develop as much, use as much, because when there is enough of it in the market, there's enough of it usage, you sell your things, you have to pay your taxes. The one who uses it pay 10% for the knowledge. Intellectual right has to be the right for people who develop it, but controlled by the government, that all get paid for it. Then there's less involvement with the governments getting involved, because researchers receive funds directly from. You look at Beatles, you look at all the songwriters, even one TikTok of their music's used, they have to be paid a fee. How come the knowledge of a scientist does not worth that much? Then a ding dong of a noise. This way is correct. It doesn't harm the producer. It says, right, these are the technologies I use from these places. That's all he needs to disclose. The government's collect the taxes, or the sale tax from it comes. If you exclusively use one technology, directly goes to technologies. There is a need for restructuring and justice to scientists and the people who develop technologies, and this is the correct way to be done. In America, you pay 4 different taxes: local tax, government tax, this tax, that tax. Why not pay the scientist who brings you together with the governments to collect the taxes for it? Any other question? Sorry, but so let me add something. By the way, now you understand why we say the price shares you see in the market is not real. If you collect these 10%, you can see the revenue. Carry on.
We have a hand up with Azar, but first I'll read another comment with Bernard. He says, I'm also presenting at Tesla Tech in New Mexico this August. I'm part of the media team at the event. Is there still an active US Keshe group that could present a demonstration of the plasma technology at the event?
Pardon? Who's this one?
That's BurnEye again, who you were just
What does
speaking.
it say?
It's in the chat here. He says he's presenting at the Tesla Tech, it's called. It's a conference in New Mexico this August. And he's wondering if there's an active US Keshe group could present a demonstration of the plasma technology at the event.
We have to know what it is. On the 16, 17, sorry, am I correct? 16, 17, 18, 19, or somewhere around 17, 18, 19 of July, there is a medical conference in Vienna. I think we've been told something like 500 psychologists and people in that field will be attending. And Keshe Foundation has been given 3 hours of lecture in this conference on the 19th, which we present the Keshe technology to the world of, to the scientific world, to the world of medicine. The application of it is done by invitation, and I'll be presenting this. You cannot just come in, I presume. It's for doctors and the world of medicine. We've been given this thanks to Dr. Kern and his work organizing this. We're making this presentation of the technology, psychological part, and the technology in plasma technology, cosmic ray, in world of medicine. And if we know what this conference is, exactly what it represents, who is going to be there, we can tailor make, or we can arrange live demonstrations from remote places that nobody knows where we're doing the research to explain the technology, or we can organize with a couple of people in US to be there. But it has to be, you got to understand, these positions has to be delivered scientifically. Maybe 5 minutes at the beginning, the history, but you have to deliver the technology scientifically accepted by these people. Is Tesla, which part of it is, what does it apply, who's there, and then we can tailor make it.
Yes, sir. So it's hosted by Steve Ellswick. He's been doing it for about 40 years. And this year there will be Dr. Bob Greenier, the head of the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project out of the UK there, the top LENR cold fusion scientist. And there's also Gerald Polak. He's the fourth state of water out of, I believe, Oregon or Washington State University. That's also going to be there, as well as
how many people are attending this conference?
I believe like 500, maybe 1,000. There's going to be Terrence Howard there with Dr. Yu of NASA presenting their theory of everything model as well, the geometric model. And yeah, I myself will be demonstrating a process of transmutation of hydrogen into helium. Will be reproducing through this white plasma arc electrolysis process, as well as a second transmutation cold fusion process, but the second one is strictly acoustic energy input only of aluminum into iron spherical metal cold fusion, and that I've been able to figure out the process of the stabilization of the iron sphericals afterwards when drying them to prevent the decay rate, as well as what you were just saying about the 10% aspect of invention. That's absolutely reasonable, and I fully agree to that on what I'll put forward with you. And the major one that I believe I've produced and replicated that you've spoken of over the years is the production of deuterium as well as tritium on the different electrode nanostructures through specific GANs electrochemistry process, including using the triple solenoid Magrav coil design and the nano coating that you've taught. And that also I've learned how to stabilize their decay rates when drying into the solid form in that. So it'd be something I'd be interested
How
in.
long is your time of presentation?
I could put an hour or 2 hour one of my own work, or at Tesla Tech, because I'm part of the media team there, so I can range for remote demonstrations as well as live demonstrations if they're able to be arranged. I believe it's August 7th to 14th or something like that. I'll get the exact dates and we'll put it in the email to
If
you.
we can participate remote, we can discuss. But depends if it's a lecture or is it an exhibition.
Sorry?
Is it a
Oh, yes,
lecture
absolutely. 100%.
or is it an exhibition?
Yes, it's an exhibition. It's a 5-day presentation of all these different free energy as well as like cold fusion and the GANs also under the Ormus there, but I understand there's the differences. And yeah, there's literally, I believe, 5 days of 12 hours of 1 hour to 2 hour presentations by the different leading people in the fields of cold fusion and cavitation, plasma fusion, and coils.
If you talk to us if how we can represent the technology, it'll be fantastic. If we can collaborate to make a present, you got to realize a lot of things regarding the work of the Keshe Foundation in next maybe 2-3 weeks will change. We'll explain why. You will understand it. Because the technology now is presented as a scientific, commercial technology. It's not a talk anymore. And this will bring the change, and maybe in the conference we'll have a different position if you do talk to us on how we present it. We can present as a market corporation in the space technology, then the Keshe Foundation as an American structure. And that might have a different effect, but we have to wait to discuss with you what and how we can present it.
Okay, I will be in contact with you and with the organizer as well, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. I just had an update from regarding the conference in Vienna. It says anyone interested can participate in Vienna or via the internet at the World Congress for Psychotherapy. We will post the link in the Telegram. A total of 2,500 people are expected to attend this conference. We've been given a 3-hour allocation in the conference on the 19th. And it'll be partially represented by Keshe Foundation, Market Corporation, and other parts of the Keshe Foundation structure. Just 1 second, I received a very interesting. We just received a message from one of the knowledge seekers. I would like, hopefully, for him to be kept anonymous. Mr. Keshe. 1 million market shares I have offered back to Keshe Foundation, hoping to sort these things out. We tell you what to do with it and how to do with it in the stock market. That it helps us, and we replenish this 1 million shares back to you on accomplishing the what we call to get the roundness. This 1 million takes us a little bit further up to help, and the share values at about 11-12 cents. That gives us $120,000. And we thank you for your support. If any other knowledge seekers would like to do this, to share their shares, we give it back guarantee once we sort out. But this will help us to move on very rapidly. Thank you very much. And we thank you for all your support. Any other question?
Yes, we have another hand up, and it's from Azar. Would you like to go ahead, Azar?
Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. I have two questions regarding one of the old teaching. In one of the old teaching, you had a demonstration of lateral magnet. If you had like 3 lateral magnet on the floor, and then you're holding one on top, and then you move the magnet, and the other magnet moves. So it's not like the magnet we had the circular magnet on the ground that you move one, the other one moves. The movement is different. So you explain in this that how the field, you can see how the field is not the matter that moves the matter, it's the field that the interaction of the field moves the magnet. So then you take this is happening in the universe, like everything moves according to what something else moves. So my question is here, you holding the lateral magnet on top, but who's holding the last thing in the universe? Because
Magnetic fields are all connected to each other. Nobody's holding it. It's one what I call perpetual connection of fields. It's a spectrum of a strength which connects to what and how and what matter. This is something which we need to teach a lot for people to understand, that plasmatic energy is part of the structure of matter energy, but we never consider it. This is why in the teachings I always talk about the matter and the energy of the matter. This is why the book 1 and 2 and 3 brings out. We consider the matter as it's a matter, but the matter to stick together needs an energy to hold it together, individually and collectively. And it depends which one you can connect to. In a matter state, in a magnet, metal, we connect to so many balance fields of so many plasmas together. That's all it is. So if I can change the balance energy, I can move even a stone, I can move a plastic, which we've shown before, understanding knowledge behind it. But all the fields are somehow connected to some other fields that at this point manifests itself in a matter level. There is no end to it. It's one vicious circle going back to itself.
okay, so can I say, for example, if I get a circular room, like a planet Earth, and I have a opening to it, and I create a whole field inside of it, and I throw in a whole bunch of items, and suddenly they're all holding their own position in that field because they're all interacting. So it's just like the whole universe is just like that. So there's no nobody is supposed to hold something because everything is holding themselves.
The holding to magnetic and gravitational positioning of the field strength.
Okay.
That's the explanation of it.
Okay.
We will, what we're developing now in the lab is very interesting because we can show it. And we set up to show many things with it. And you should be able to see magnetic vortexes, plasmatic vortexes, made by the field themselves in how they connect to each other. You should see the way the information comes. I hope maybe in the future we can, if you remember in Valletta, we made the structure of the physical brain. Our next step, maybe next 3 months, 6 months, maybe more or less, to build the structure of the energy of the brain, which is the total breakthrough in the world of science. We have set up the first half of it. It's going to be developed, to be finished, where we dictate the layers, but at the same time, we use only the energy, not the matter. And this is a huge, huge breakthrough. It just changes everything. In a way, we can feed the whole humanity with one system. We are maybe a year, 2 years away from it. Maybe less, maybe more. If you're lucky, we might hit it next month, God knows. But our scientists have to understand the work that they can develop that phase. And then we can feel all emotions, you can touch all emotions, you can change people's perception of war and destroy that inside. System, which is now going through a test in past couple of weeks, will change the world of science in understanding the work of the energy of the matter than the matter. That's where the breakthrough comes in.
Mr. Keshe, the next thing I want to ask is when you talk about if we know the mass of destination, there's two questions here. If we know the mass of destination, we can actually travel to that. It's just that the difference between the gravitational field and the magnetic field gives me the mass. So is the mass of destination is our own mass at the destination, or mass of the destination as the destination, for example, say moon? And if this is the case, is the destination mass is important in transmutation, or is important in teleportation? Because transmutation, you don't deal with mass because there's soul traveling. But with teleportation, you physically going to be there. So the mass comes into play in that case. Am I correct? And if it's correct, then it has to be with my mass in, say, planet Moon or planet Mars, not the mass of destination itself. I'm not sure. Mr. Keshe, are you there?
His microphone's off right now.
Sorry, I didn't notice I was talking to myself.
Okay, there we go.
What happened, Mr. Keshe?
I by accident touched the microphone and I didn't notice it. If you explain the mass as the interaction of the given amount of field strength, then you are correct. Considering that the centrifugal force of the universe dictates that mass. The mass of the elements, which is the balance fields of the gravitational magnetic field of given the strength and the amount of field, is explained as a mass. And this is dictated by the central point of the universe in this universe. The mass of the copper in another universe can be totally different, because the field forces, then it dictates on this, on how. Then this dictates on how much fields can be. This is why the energy of an electron is fixed. We know what it is. We know what the energy of a proton or a neutron is, because this is fixed. We cannot change it. It's dictated by central forces of the center. But again, within this, there is another field which is dictated by the center of Unicos, which dictates that. So the masses are not all the same in all the universes. And the weight changes. The mass in the center is dictated by the centrifuge forces of the inner center.
Mr. Keshe, I know partially, I know that.
Let me explain something. You have to understand that the universe, our universe, or any universe, does not have a central black hole. It has a longitudinal, it's like a ray, because it's moving within the Unicos. And it has a direction. So if you one day we can look at the whole of our universe, it is not more or less spherical. It's very much like a flat UFO, because the central line is a combination between the light and the matter as a plasma. And this, the speed of travel, the speed of rotation of central column of the universe dictates the mass. Because if the speed of it, if the absorption rate of it is different, it will reject the mass into the Unicos. This is how it actually happens in the atomic structure. An atom, when you look at it, the electron is not spherical moving. It's very much a plasma UFO shape, because its central point, it dictates its motion. It's not a ball that you see or follow. It's slightly elliptic. And this is what we have to understand, because this shape dictates the mass, the matter state. And this is part of the understanding of transmutation. You cannot transmute with the same mass from one universe into another. It's impossible.
So Mr. Keshe, okay, so it's impossible, but then, so the mass is important in transmutation then, and also in teleportation, because in transmutation, you don't have to physically be there. For example, I can be sitting here in my room, and then I transmute, go someplace in Tehran, and I can see, for example, my parents, but I'm not physically there, but I can see them sitting there, whatever. I can see the objects in the room. I can see that. But with teleportation, physicality is going to move, and the only way physicality can move, because the soul has to come out enough to expand, to kind of get the physicality engulfed, just like the way you explain the envelope. You put something like a letter in an envelope, and you can mail it. So the soul comes out, expand enough, the physicality is going to be engulfed in soul, and then at that point the soul has the interaction, because the soul already has all the connection with the whole universes, so it can decide what matters. I don't know.
You see, I'll explain it backwards. Maybe you understand it easier, or maybe it's understood easier. Interaction of the gravitational magnetic field at the level of the universe for every matter. This is why we say the environment, it gets a weight. You have to understand that this mass which we dictate to be whatever, dictated by the unicos mass, was central field forces, which in this universe allows the interaction of. This is what we have to understand. The mass in this universe is fixed by its interaction between the fields of itself in central point. That's why you have such a small amount of a galaxy. It's gone down to the lowest common denominator, field strength, go through nuclear decay, because this package interacts with the fields around it, with other fields which come from other masses, and in giving and taking, it in a way divides. There is a part of nuclear physics which is never understood. We never explain, and it's the elevation of the matter. Not everything goes to a nuclear decay. Matters go to nuclear elevation. You can go from copper to gold, and it happens all the time in the universe. Plasmatic interaction absorption allows it. You cannot have a one-way traffic all the way in nuclear decay. Whoever came up with this knowledge is absolutely nonsense. Then it comes to doomsday, there is nothing left to divide. We have the same process backwards, elevation of atoms. Elevation of atoms comes in a different way from interaction of the fields. Decay of, let's say, plutonium, uranium, whatever atom, when gold is temporarily section in this part of the universe, in this planet, because then it decays to something else, there's nothing to be made gold of. This is why in the teachings I always say the number of, we say is 100 and something, is of the lowest order, because part of these in the dimension of conversion get elevated back to a higher level. We are producing this deliberately in the new design of the reactors. We have thought, how is this? We tested it, we've done that in the previous reactors. Nuclear decay is exactly like magnetical side, but the magnetical side has a gravitational side, has to gain for that magnetical to exist somewhere. The elevation of the matter, it's far more than the nuclear decay. And I put this forward years ago. This fits with the conservation of energy. Otherwise, we just keep on losing. But we had to prove, and it comes through cosmic radiation, not cosmic rays. This is the reason I started to talk about cosmic radiation months and months ago, because I know one day it comes to it. You don't, with let's say X-ray, you hit the target, you split it, you release this energy. With the what I call elevation of the matter, in a way nuclear elevation if you want to call it, this is where the radiation comes into. Fusion does not exist. Fusion is a dream which will never come true if you really understand the fusion. But you can add to elevate the atom to a higher order. And this what happens in in nuclear physics. We talk about the split of uranium into the release of the energy comes heat, which we use in turbines or whatever for electricity. But scientific world has never understood elevation of the matter next to it. In the energy level. Then you have to find out, because this environment does not allow manifestation of it, where that energy matter comes up to. This is what we do in the production of material. Elevation of the nuclear elevation exists, has to exist. Decay. Where are we going? Where did we come from? So the source continuously creates much bigger elements that we don't even know. They decay today, become uranium of the day, and then decays to something else. Half of the knowledge is missing. Nuclear elevation exists. It just uses the surface energy of the higher order to interact to create elevation of. It doesn't need fusion. This is why nuclear elevation exists. We see it, we observe it, but we cannot detect it inside the reactor. We cannot detect it inside the uranium rods in nuclear materials. But if we collect outside, we see conversion of matter. We call it conversion of material structure. A few cafe, and next to me was an Englishman. I said, "Oh, where do you come?" He said, "I'm in the net business." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You know, table tennis nets and this nets and that nets." Yeah. He said, "But this is not the main job. The main job of the net production now is nuclear industry, especially like in Sellafield." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "In Sellafield, the panels are falling off the ceilings." I said, "Oh God, it's got that bad." He says, "I haven't found the solution for it." I said, "Yes, I know, because I did my research as a student on these panels when I was working for British Nickel Fuel. They were falling off because at that time we sorted it out. We gave the energy from the reactor, nuclear energy, which is hidden to us, hits these, softens the pins and they fall. We sorted it out, we organized it. But now they stop the reactors, the energy is reversing back onto itself. So they're just making mesh nets to catch these panels that it doesn't fall on top of the nuclear reactors." Nuclear elevation comes from the radiation. What we don't see it at the point, we see it outside when it materializes. A copper becomes gold. Uranium becomes gold. Uranium becomes something else. Later down in the process of the nuclear decay, in that process, that gold can become plutonium too, if it's positioned in the right place to create the condition of. This is nuclear elevation. This is what we see, not as a nuclear decay. Decay is half of the decay. Conservation of energy tells us has to be something to feed that it can decay, that it go back to. And world of science has never understood. And when we do it in the plasma technology, especially, we designed reactors now which produce cosmic radiation that allows elevation. Our friend was just telling to us a few minutes ago that he's developed technology to produce hydrogen into helium, blah, blah. You don't need to. If you understand the plasma technology as a nuclear cosmic radiation, you just create a field of radiation. Every atom will go back to what it's supposed to be to decay back down. This is what I say in the science. We always deny, ignore, out of our lack of understanding the process. Because somebody down the line said nuclear decay, blah, blah. Where is the other half? Where is the balance of it? And if you understand this, then you understand mass is part of the equation. Universal mass is part of the equation. And it's universe dependent. Another universe in another position has a different mass, gravitational magnetical plasma package that in this is what we call a super. Maybe in this universe, let's say we have 10 gram, in the other universe is 9 gram, gives the same characteristics, copper, as a copper material. In another universe could be 15 gram. Depending on the central force. But when they interact in the unicast, then the interaction of central field force of universe or unicast decides on the mass. This is, and if you understand this, using the transition time between the mass and the energy which goes up to become the mass again, you can transmute, you can transfer, you can do everything. This is what we call time, the time of switch time. The split up, what we call the lifetime plus time. You have a nuclear time decay, you have a lifetime decay, lifetime. If you understand that, then you can connect. And in some papers I refer to this, even I think it's book number 3, I refer to this somewhere. Nuclear radiation is, or cosmic ray radiation, is the corner, is the other half, because elevates the lower elements to a higher element that they can decay back. It's not all the way down the hill. If it was down the hill, why do we see universes, why do we see solar systems away from us to the edge of the universe which have the same characteristics as us? Where does it go? It should be smaller. They should be made of only atoms from gold down, and the next one feather out only from hydrogen down. It doesn't happen. Conservation of the energy tells us there must be something going up the ladder that it can come down the ladder to keep the conservation going. And the world of science has not understood this. The elevation of the plasma, it does not mean the fusion of plasma. In this process, radiation comes in, not amalgamation. In a way, you blow air into the balloon, you don't bring another balloon to add it to it. World of science doesn't understand. It never understood that. You go and look at any literature, is not never taught. And most of this radiation comes out of nuclear decay. The bits of the energy, when it splits, they say it comes energy. Okay, just because we use the heat of it, we ignore the other part of it, which is used for elevation of the atoms in the field strength to elevate to the higher that they can decay.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. The same way the world of science doesn't understand this, I think that's the same way humanity doesn't understand the law of give and take. Thank you.
Thank you very much. World of nuclear is one of the most fascinating worlds of science. Has no dimension and has no connection to the science of man. It's the world of creation. And this is why when you understand it, you see the life totally different. I had the privilege from China to be involved in or introduced by my father to X-rays and radiation. And it took years to understand this. It's not a one-way traffic down. It has to be a balance. Where the balance comes, cosmic ray could supply part of it, but it has to be much closer. And it only comes from actually the decay of neutron itself. It's not all heat sound. What about the other higher orders, radiations? Sound in the atomic is nuclear, is a radiation. The light of the splitting is a radiation. So why not that extra radiation, which you don't have the detection method at the moment, that is used to, in a way, elevate an atom, consider it. But because we don't consider it, because it doesn't happen, it's a higher order, it doesn't happen in the environment of the matter. In that place and position, it happens further out. When it comes with others, we see this in cladding of the nuclear material or nuclear rods. I've seen this many times in cladding of the nuclear rods. I see this in the nuclear control rods. Structures which we're not expecting, and then it cracks because it's bigger than atomic structure than this other one, which is made of. Then we find cracks in control rods, we find cracks in the cladding, we call it corrosion because we never understood. This is a material. This is beyond understanding of the present time, but those who work with me in the nuclear side of the development, so there's been explained to them. And we're building system for that purpose, creating nuclear cosmic ray radiation for elevation of an atom, not fusion. Fusion is totally the wrong way, it doesn't exist. This is why there's so much problem, creates so much heat. Actually, what we call nuclear elevation is the one which creates coolness. It brings the heat down. If it's used properly, you can use it for controlling nuclear reactors. Any other question?
Thank you. Irmgard has a hand up here. Could you go ahead next? Are you there, Irmgard?
How are you, Irmgard?
Thank you. I had briefly corresponded with Mr. Keshe about maybe helping my father's art contribution to the Keshe Foundation, and and since then I've had the idea maybe we could make reproductions and use materials to print. Is that a possibility?
Everything is possible. I read your message. Thank you very much for your offer. But how are these valued in the market? I mean, how popular your father was with his work?
He had lots of exhibits, but he never really pursued marketing them because he did not like what was happening in the art market. Like, for instance, like Van Gogh starving, and then now the people making millions off of his work. So he never wanted to participate there, but he had his own private exhibits and marketed not very much. We have a lot of them left.
How many do you have left?
A couple hundred or more, several.
Be in the hand of an art dealer who understands, who can make from it. It's very interesting what he said. When I read your message, he brought the ago, and I was trying to find a solution. What did I do with it? What happened that time? In 1980s, early 80s, I was flown by the British government to Holland. We had to drive through Belgium to go to northern France with that time police cars, and they took me to an old abandoned school. I was maybe 26, 27. I was one of the multimillionaires in England, and they wanted to get me to buy this artwork. And they opened the school, and it was full of paintings in covered packages or whatever, hundreds of them. And I said to the guy, what he says, this artist was sponsored by the government, and his artwork was kept, that when he dies, it gets value. Now he has gained value, we want to sell it. You understand? Because maybe your father, but not so your place, because I was involved in 2 or 3 things like this at that time. So it needs somebody who knows how to package this as an artist to give it value. Otherwise, it's just another painting.
Right. What I was thinking is if we could do something with the Ganses to reproduce them with the Ganses and then sell them as energy paintings, because they themselves are highly loaded with energy. I mean, like
We
when
did that a couple of years ago, if you remember, in the painting of the artist with the Ganses. We still have some of him there left. We can do that. It can be.
Yeah, because I sure like his.
Like some influence of Picasso you see in there.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you see
the whole expressionist movement.
The expressionist movement is in there. Yeah, it's a very complex picture. Some of them very. I used to do with art these things years ago. I used to work with Salavi auction room for these things years and years ago.
And for me, he was a little bit like you. He was an eternal teacher, only in a different area, and highly ethical. And like he was a professor, and every time he had a lecture, he would start the lecture in art education with something from Zoroaster or from Buddha or from Lao Tse or something, and it would start his lecture, precede his lecture with something like that to feed his students. And he also did an extensive work with youth, and so he included everything from physics to poetry to music and everything. All those things for me are contained in those paintings. I see
it's
all
amazing. It's amazing. I watched it because I enjoy painting. I enjoy art this way because it shows depth of emotion they go through to put it in.
Yes, and like even those paintings that deal with negative subjects like old age, or even he painted about Stauffenberg in Germany, who
do you mind if I share some of these pictures?
Sure.
It's amazing. Some of them is very beautiful. I see the mixture of number of European paintings.
Yes, he was part of expressionism.
Yeah, you can see it. It's beautiful, some of it.
And I'd love to share this. I'd love to share it, but most people wouldn't. I mean, he didn't sell them for excessive amounts of money. He actually sold them by the square meter, because he said, I'm not a good judge of value of. He wasn't dealing with the market value. There's so much junk out in the art market that he says, I want more than that. Whatever they're getting for their junk, I want more. So recording. So we never established a value.
Here, let me share some. So it's a mixture of what you call not a mixture, but amalgamation of some of the world famous arts.
Yeah, and there's way more.
Yeah.
I mean, he is very diverse. He went through all kinds of experiments. He was always setting himself challenges. And he didn't paint for a market. He painted for his own personal development.
Yeah, I share the pictures if you can see some of his work.
Yeah.
It's just how it needs somebody in the art world to evaluate and to put this in a correct manner. This takes 2-3 years of work to do and how to promote it. And the problem is with the expressionists and the artists like what we've seen in becoming very high, the prices, because the market is limited. There's no more of it.
Mm-hmm.
And introducing a new artist and getting it to be accepted, it usually has a higher value nowadays if they find one, and if it's not alive, like your dad.
Yeah.
Because there is only one Mona Lisa, you can't make two of it to have the same price, and the market is saturated. That's why new art, there's what they call it, art taking up and having value, because there's no more of the old one, and the rich people have bought all the old ones. And expressionists like him gives a new dimension into the world of art, but you need someone from Salabi or from another artist, if he's well known, documented, that and with it to have a history of this artist, what he worked the way he did. You know, the painter who was selling so much that when you look at his pictures, you see on all his pictures 2 matchsticks. He was producing in such a rate selling that he didn't have time to dry. He put matchsticks on his old last painting to stack the next one on. It became a mass production of replication. But this is genuine art. But at the moment there are so many artists. But if you can connect the history of him with the thing.
Well, he published, he wrote about art, and he published about his own art.
But does he explain any of his paintings? Is there anywhere
some of them, yes.
Yeah, because art without explanation has not got that much value unless somebody buys just because of the name.
Right. I talk with him every Saturday, and he gave me a summary of that week's work, and I jotted down notes on all of that.
Yeah, if there's a history, because for example, when you look at this, let's say this picture, just the painting, but what's behind it, was the essence of the painting behind it. To me, it's just a trumpet and a man playing, but what's the expression, and the detailed explanation of the painting puts a lot of value into it, because I've been in this game years ago. And anybody who likes to buy the paintings, we can put them all on the website, and we can get other painters to replicate it, to copy it. It can be done. But what people offer for it, some of these, I looked at one of them, I think worth a lot of money. One of the paintings you can send me, I think this one, the one on the top, from what I understand, going to the impression of the face and the body, is if there's explanation with it, has a value.
Okay.
But I don't have that expertise. I can see there's a picture behind the picture. If you look, there's so many of them.
Oh, there's.
Yeah, I can see the picture behind the picture there. Yeah. Thank you very much. But let me think about it. It goes back to, I used to know the director of the survey in London. Used to do a lot of work with them in the artwork. They're all gone at my age, and none of them exist. That's the problem with me. If anybody would like to, if you want to put it, we put it on the website and see what comes and make your offer. These are in thousands. These are not in a few hundred. You can buy these paintings. The brushwork, the detail is too detailed. It's a mature painting. It's not a painting of somebody just to paint and rush and go.
That's for sure.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I enjoy art like this, and if you can collect, because I was involved, as I told you, years ago in buying art collections of the dead artist. You buy it for $1 million or $2 million, and it's worth in tens of millions if you know how to market it.
Yeah, I was just wondering, once we start having houses come out of a box, how can we hang paintings?
People don't appreciate this. People don't appreciate the painting like this with the history of your father and the explanation of the paintings has to go into art galleries and private collections. But you have to create a value for it. And don't forget, auction houses gets hundreds of these every year.
Yeah, right.
But if you need somebody to put detail into it, and I think, what's the size of this one, which is on the screen?
Oh, that's probably 1 meter tall.
Valued about $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 easily, if there's explanation with it.
Mhm.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Let me think about it. If knowledge seekers want to do anything with it, you're quite welcome. Get in touch with Keshe on the chain, and then use it.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thanks for all your support. Thank you. Any other question?
Okay, thank you. Let me see here. We have Claudia with the hand up. Perhaps, we're getting on in time here, but if you still have the energy, we can carry on.
Yeah, we carry on. Stop. Long
Okay.
question. Yeah.
Hey, hello, Rick. Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Hi.
My question is related about the DNA that we were discussing yesterday, the balance in our star formations. And I was listening about cosmic radiation. Is the cosmic radiation is the only way to change our DNA to become a peaceful man? That's my question.
The DNA is the reflection of the work of the RNA, or what we call the solar physicality. And with its memory bank, it reflects how we physically respond to. Is not creator of the information and the response and the emotion. And to make a peaceful man, you have to change the solar physicality. Physicality is just a tool, it's the computer. You can be black, you can be white, you can be yellow, and you still be aggressive. You can be black, yellow, and green, and you still be lovable. And it's how we carry that point, how we transfer that point. Is it in DNA or is it in emotion? Or do we change the solar physicality? One of my children had a habit of when he played with children, goes and cuddles the child and kisses it and say goodbye. That was a habit. And this is still a habit, because physically I enjoy it. Now I show you my emotion. That's what counts, and that's what we have to understand. Physicality is outside, but the emotion or information sits in RNA. And this needs to be changed. Body is just reflection of what is in the emotion.
I saw the difference is about RNA and DNA that we learned at school. It's only one CH3. So it's like the physicality and the emotion, like
You know what
they are
CH3?
similar.
You know what the CH3 is?
Yeah.
It's sugar of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it carries both universal connection, which is a carbon, and what you call the matter state to the universe, energy. And this shows the characteristic of the connection between the matter and energy. And science has not understood this part yet.
So if I change the emotion, I change the DNA. I
Yes,
change
of
the phosphor.
course, of course.
Or the phosphor is the
yes.
whole nerve.
You look at these people who have different color skin, mixture of black, what do you call it, white and brown skin patches. Scientifically, you can change the whole skin to black or white if you decide to do, just by emotion. Same body, it's physical manifestation. You can do it yourself, it can be done. You don't need creams. You just change. Why do you want to be white when you're black? What's the advantage? What's the suffering? Why do the white people go to the some places to get tan, brown, and be dark, and then they stay racist? Doesn't add up, does it? It's the physical interaction or the emotional interaction. Man became white because of the emotion in interaction with the environment. And then he goes and gets suntan, goes and stays under the sun to go to sunbeds, to go brown, and then comes out and is racist. Why? Because the information is missing, the emotion is missing.
And the phosphor will change to another mineral or another amino acid, or
Is to do with the energy of the soul. This is why more or less all the passengers of the universe are the same color, the ones who understood. Because that emotion is equal to everywhere. Search to be in a very correct way, and by what you call those who understand the knowledge. And it needs a lot of understanding of the transfer of energy, and different understanding of the totality of the fields interaction. We have to understand the difference between the matter and uh, uh, how they connect to each other. How we have to find a common ground. When you say the DNA and RNA connected with CH3, the carbon connection connects it to the physicality of the what you call the amino acid. The hydrogen of it connects it to the universal energy. This is why you need that 2 extra hydrogen, as you call it, energy-wise, to create the seed of connection and the information and the emotion. In the future, as we develop within technologies, we go further with understanding of this connection. I used to use this knowledge quite extensively when we used to produce units in Belgium years ago. If you understand how to use this connection, you can change a lot of things, from emotion to physicality to the school of thoughts. You can change the emotion of a person. Any other question? Shall we call it a day? Nearly 1 o'clock.
Only one more thing, Mr. Keshe, can I ask? It's
Yeah,
very fast. You said that when we go to more distance from the surface of the Earth, we have the fields become weaker and we produce more hydrogen. So is the same in us? Like, for example, or doesn't matter the distance? For example, I have my soul in my head and my foot is the part that's far away from my soul. Is the part that produce more hydrogen or not?
You have to redefine it. In which way? You have to refine. You know how I can explain it. Walk in the house and go and walk in the garden and feel the difference in your emotion. Then you understand the emotion of insecurity. You understand the information about the energy. You understand about the emotion of the trust. You want to see a character of a person in emotion and response. Get them to walk on gravels, not on the grass, not on the pavement. You see the reaction, how they walk on gravels, on piece of stone, because it's the energy absorbed from the ground, changes the blood circulation, goes to the brain, and creates a reaction of emotion. Do they run on it without a fear? Are they tiptoeing? It gives you a full emotion about the person's behavior, trust in themselves, because there's nobody else there. It's just them, energy of the planet, reaction of the soul of physicality, physicality and the soul of the man. It's a beautiful experience. You want to see how mature your child is, get them to walk on gravels, small and big pieces, not the soft gravels, and see how they run, how they react. And then you can assess the state of the emotion of the person. How they develop, how much trust they have in themselves, how they convert the energy of information in the soul into physicality. You can do the same with children, especially. Give them a mixture of a fruit, which has got a rough and a smooth, and it's got different texture in it. Their reaction tells you the state of the maturity of the child. Because it's them directly with their own emotion. There's nobody else involved, and it's the response between the physicality, body touches, soul of physicality, the emotions created, and how they connect with the soul, with the others. Watch them. Do they look up to you, open their eyes, and they give you a sign of will, or do they sign of pleasure? And you give it to the child next and see how they react. Maturity of a child can be seen by feeding a child. You see the state of development in trusting themselves, and maturity in converting information. It's if you understand these things, they do amazing job for research and development and understanding of your own children. Do they run in the gravels? Do they accept new? And then you see the connection between the soul of the man, the soul of his God.
Thank you so much, Mr. Keshe. Thank you. Have a good
You-
day.
Thank you very much, and call it a day. And thank you very much for all your support. It's amazing what we achieve and what we can do. Thank you for the knowledge seekers support, relentless support. As we received an offer for 1 million shares, if we can get another 4 or 5 million shares that we can get things through, we give you shares back out of our own assets, not from the Keshe Foundation, what they call it, market. Once the situation is over, that you don't lose anything at all. There's a lot to solve is a solution for us to move on very rapidly. Thank you very much. And see you next week. See you those tomorrow. We start at 10 till 2 for our session. And please, please come to know yourself. Nobody else and nothing else. Thank you. Goodbye.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Thank you. That was a rather long workshop compared to some, but deep teachings that came out today. This has been the 596th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, June 26, 2025. Thank you, everybody, for your questions and comments. And let me see, I have to check my calendar for the next public teaching workshop, which will be our One Planet, One Nation, One Race for Justice and World Peace. And we will be into July by then. July 1st, on Tuesday, July 1st, starting at 4 p.m. Central European Time. We'll be with members of and support members of the Universal Council, who will be presenting the show, and members of the public are invited to attend. Okay, thank you again, everyone, for being here. We'll go out with our usual musical interlude here, and we'll see you in our next public teaching.
I think we're back, Okay. Now to finish her off. Ooh, we're in. We're in. We're in the matrix. Okay. To finish this last little thing off, we just show many different states of GANs, ormus, monatomics, nanomaterials, the oxides, the hydrides, crystallides, the alkalines and the acids, the aerogels, monatomics, crystal states, and lastly, the reactor we have set up. Going on. So I guess need to fix the connection into the second jar. Is still not working, but the first jar we have zinc, aluminum, and copper GANs, hydrogen forming, and nice layer, at least an inch or so of the different GANs, and also tungsten in there as well. Yes, tungsten reactors in the electrode that the copper and aluminum wires are around. Yeah, so I guess we'll shut her down for now. And I got a bunch of emails to write, plans to do. Here we have iron, ferrite, carbon electrodes, red state materials, light state, different colors equal different chemical isotope molecule, hydride and oxide chemical compounds in the GANs ormus state. The blue oxides, what give the molecule a magnetic polarized field force to it, and then the hydride, what gives the electric charge of the particle as well. So you have your electromagnetic chemical molecule reaction with the neutral single atom monatomics, which we have here. And we have lots here. And all right. Thanks for watching. Ta-ta.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just BurnEye.
Hey, BurnEye just like last week, huh?
Weekend at BurnEye's.